We're going to start with a provocative idea. Some books simply must be challenged. We're talking about George Orwell's Animal Farm, this deceptively slim fairy story that asks a really quiet but devastating question.
Right. Do revolutions genuinely free the oppressed?
Or do they just rotate who holds the whip? It's a small book, but its moral weight is immense.
Yeah.
And we need a precise way to look at its claims.
To do that, we believe that some books must be challenged. This critique uses, as appropriate, a step-by-step critical thinking framework that maps claims to evidence.
Okay.
We also apply an intellectual framework, pulling from principles of rational inquiry, and we use the Golden Rule and the U.S. preamble to identify ethical asymmetries. Then we wrap up with a logical analysis and a balanced conclusion.
That structure is so important because the book feels simple, but its ideas are huge. And for you listening, we should clarify. You are experiencing a unique two-host AI conversation powered by Google's Notebook LM for a deeper, more dynamic book critique.
Yeah.
Our mission here is to use this structured analysis to really probe what this book is claiming about power, truth, and, well, the human condition itself.
And what's so fascinating is how quickly Orwell gets to the central conflict. At its very heart, the book is asking, can a movement that's founded on absolute equality survive?
Especially when one group claims to, know better than everyone else.
Exactly. When they claim to have a greater burden of responsibility, that's where the new hierarchy begins.
It's the classic failure revolutionary ideals, isn't it?
Yeah.
The animals revolt, united by shared suffering and this promise of a utopia.
They win.
They do, but that victory almost immediately creates a power vacuum, and a new, more ruthless class just steps right in.
And that's the brilliance of the allegorical mapping. It works because it's so clear. The revolt mirrors the Russian Revolution, but you don't need to be an expert on the Bolsheviks to feel the betrayal.
So the pigs become the new political elite. Why them?
Well, it's not because they're the strongest. It's because they have the intellectual tools. Specifically, they can read and write. They control the language.
And their power is built on the backs of characters like Boxer, the horse.
Box.
He's that tireless, completely loyal working class, right? He just embraces the slogans, I will work harder.
Yes, and that mantra becomes the very engine of his own exploitation. His virtue is weaponized against him.
When you map this to history, each event on the farm is another step toward totalitarianism.
It is. The expulsion of the farmer is the spark. But then the debates between Snowball and Napoleon, that's the consolidation of party power. It's Stalin versus Trotsky, really.
And it turns violent fast. The public executions that follow aren't just for drama.
No, they mirror the political purges. They're designed to eliminate dissent and create this atmosphere of unquestioned authority.
And this is where the book's logic just explodes beyond the Soviet Union. I mean, this pattern applies to any system where slogans become more important than accountability.
Or where leaders claim to have some special knowledge that the masses just can't understand.
Exactly. The fact that it's a short fable lets readers from any background grasp that moral unease instantly. You feel the unfairness, even if you don't know the specific history.
And that feeling of unfairness leads us straight into the ethical analysis, specifically this idea of ethical asymmetry.
Okay, let's break that down.
Put simply, it's when all the risk, all the hardship is pushed onto one group.
While all the rewards and comfort are kept by a different, smaller group.
Precisely. And this book is a masterclass in showing how that fairness erodes over time.
If you apply the Golden Rule test, the pig's behavior just becomes more and more indefensible. They start with shared principles, the 7 commandments, but they immediately start carving out exceptions for themselves.
The milk and apples, they claim it's a temporary necessity for their brain work.
But that temporary exception becomes permanent law.
And they demand this back-breaking sacrifice from everyone else. Rebuilding the windmill, working longer hours, eating less.
While they move into the farmhouse and start sleeping in beds.
Right. The Golden Rule asks you to treat others as you'd want to be treated. The pigs demand to be treated like kings while treating the other animals like disposable parts.
And if we measure the farm against those big ideals in the U.S., preamble justice, general welfare, liberty, the collapse is just stark.
The whole point of the revolution was to establish justice and promote the general welfare of all animals.
But the reality becomes the exact opposite.
That community of shared burdens just drifts into this tightly controlled state built on fear, surveillance, ritual, propaganda. They completely replace trust.
Justice is gone. The pigs hold secret trials and executions. The general welfare now just means the welfare of the pigs.
And that structure forces you, the reader, to question similar patterns in our own institutions. When a powerful group says they need special benefits for the greater good,
Animal Farm tells you to be very, very skeptical.
it's the ultimate ethical bait and switch. The sacrifice is socialized, but the rewards are privatized.
Now, let's look at the leaders themselves, because they show these different but equally dangerous paths to power. You have Napoleon.
The brutal, calculating dictator. It's all about control through raw fear and force.
But then there's Snowball, the visionary.
He's often seen as the idealist, right? He genuinely believes in progress, the windmill, electricity, a better life for all.
But his ideas are no match for Napoleon's ruthlessness. It shows that good intentions are not enough to protect a movement.
And then there's Squealer, maybe the most important of all.
He's the specialist in language. He makes the unacceptable sound perfectly reasonable.
He's the chief propagandist, the manipulator of truth. When the rules change, he just tells the animals they're remembering it wrong.
Which points to their fundamental failure of intellectual integrity. They don't just lie, they destroy the very idea of shared truth.
They invent statistics to prove things are better, even as the animals starve. They erase history, turning Snowball from a hero into a traitor.
And they punish independent thought. That's key. They don't want debate.
No, any question is framed as a betrayal. As Squealer says, surely you don't want Jones to come back. It's a false choice that shuts down all criticism.
This gets us to maybe the most sobering part of the book. The complicity of the oppressed.
Yes. The working animals, from Boxer to the cynical donkey, Benjamin, they show that hard work and good intentions, they don't automatically lead to justice.
Not without critical thinking. Not without shared power.
Boxer's story is just tragic. His faith is so blind and unquestioning.
If Comrade Napoleon says it must be right.
Exactly. And his inability to connect the pig's actions to his own empty stomach is what seals his fate.
And then you have Benjamin the donkey. He's the opposite.
He's the cynical observer. He sees the truth. He gets the manipulation, but he does nothing.
He believes suffering is just. The way of the world. No matter who's in charge.
And his inaction is its own moral warning. Knowledge without the courage to act on it is powerless.
Which makes this so much more than a political cartoon. It's a warning about individual responsibility.
And if we look closer at the symbols, we see how they reinforce this. The farm's constitution, those 7 commandments on the barn wall.
They're the anchor. The society's founding principles.
And we just watch page by page as those symbols are slowly, subtly altered.
No animal shall sleep in a bed. Suddenly has, with sheets, tacked on the end.
The rule against alcohol gets a little addendum about excess.
This slow editing of language shows how it can be used not just to describe reality,
but to manufacture it. It works because it happens bit by bit. The animals' memories are flawed, and they stop comparing the official story to their own lived experience.
Until finally the commandments are reduced to that one single chilling principle.
That some animals are more equal than others. It's just the logical conclusion of all the small changes that came before.
The book's moral logic is terrifyingly consistent. Exploitation grows whenever transparency and debate shrink.
It's a direct cause and effect, and the tone, part dark comedy, part grim warning, lets the irony do the heavy lifting. It never feels preachy.
The ordinary animals become complicit when they trade that personal responsibility for easy slogans.
Before we move on to the historical context and our conclusion, this is a good moment to mention our mindful moments.
Right. You can check out our YouTube channel, which offers AI book analyses, summaries, critiques, and podcasts, all designed to inspire reflection and rational thought.
They're a way to continue the kind of conversation we're having right now, helping you process these complex ideas.
Diving back in, it's so important to place this book in its historical context. Orwell wrote it during World War II.
When Britain and the Soviet Union were allies.
So there was widespread admiration for the Soviets because they were fighting fascism. Openly criticizing Stalin was difficult.
The allegory was his warning against romanticizing any regime, no matter who their enemy is.
It demands that we judge a system not on its stated ideals, but on how it actually treats its most vulnerable people.
And this clarifies the book's political alignment. Orwell was a democratic socialist. He cared about equality and worker dignity.
So this is a criticism of tyranny from the left. It's not a defense of capitalism or the old way of doing things.
Exactly. He's attacking the totalitarian methods that betray those very socialist ideals.
Philosophically, it seems to lean toward what you might call tragic humanism.
I think so. It assumes there are real moral standards: fairness, honesty, solidarity.
But the tragedy is watching how fear, ignorance, and ambition, these basic human or animal flaws, inevitably twist those standards.
Unless citizens stay intellectually vigilant, unless they keep their capacity for dissent alive, it's the recurring sad pattern of history.
So after all that, what does this mean for us, the reader? Without giving away the ending, the book leaves you with this final, chilling question about power itself.
When the oppressed and the oppressor become indistinguishable, when they share the same vices and enforce the same inequality, has the revolution simply failed?
Or has it revealed something more terrifying about what happens when power escapes all moral constraint?
That realization is the true legacy of this book.
That is a profound thought to end on. And it leads us right back to our mindful moment for you.
Mm-hmm.
While you're reading or thinking about Animal Farm, just pause and ask yourself this. In my own workplace, my community, or in politics, where do I see small rule changes, selective memory, or flattery being used to justify unequal burdens?
Asking that question turns the short satire into a really demanding personal ethics exercise. And we should add that this critique applies structured critical thinking concepts drawn from widely taught frameworks in logic, ethics, and civic reasoning. We integrate them with literary analysis to support reflective, not passive reading.
Click the link on screen for the in-depth book analysis. Subscribe, share, purchase via link, and think rationally.
See the many genre-based book podcasts at Mindful Moments. Subscribe and nourish your mind on the go.